Super Sunday yesterday for Liverpool as they beat City to go 11 points clear of Man City and 9 points clear already in the title race. Today we are having the debate, is it over already? Before Christmas, arguably the first time ever, is the title race over? Jamie, we've got to come to you first. We've done enough talking about how terrible City are over the last 2 weeks, so we'll spare you that. But despite everything you're seeing, do you still believe that there is hope for Man City to turn things around, or are we going to see a Liverpool drop-off? What do you think at the moment?
Well, at the moment, it's hard to see a turnaround for City because at the moment we can't even get a win, let alone a turnaround enough to get there. What the sort of on the Liverpool front of it is they're getting, it's, I don't know how to sort of explain it, but it's like they're playing teams at the right times. They're playing City when they're off form. They played Real Madrid when they're not in great form, to be perfectly honest. It's all clicking for them. If something sort of like a 50-50, it goes their way. In terms of like decisions, I just mean in terms of that possible luck where it might hit the post and go in or hit the post and come out. That kind of thing is what's happening at the moment. And if that happens for the rest of the season, Liverpool will be deservedly champions. However, we are only a third into the season. So I don't think you can quite justify yet to say it's completely over and no one can catch up. Because teams have caught up with sort of, I don't know about 11, but 9 points. I definitely think there's been a team that would have caught up along there. I know City have been 8 points off a few teams before and caught them up. So I think it's still possible, but at the moment, it's definitely Liverpool's to lose. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Reece, I mean, how impressed have you been with Liverpool so far? Because not many did expect this. We've got to be honest about that.
No, yeah, you have to give them their flowers 100%. You know, they're not just putting in, you know, victories. They're putting in excellent performances. That's the thing. You know, they cruised past Man City yesterday. You know, there was no real point City even being there. You know, cruise past Madrid. Yes, both teams are out of form, but they dominated them. They had the scare against Southampton, but they came back. Not many teams do that. You know, not many teams have the mentality to come back. They beat Villa comfortably. You know, they beat Brighton as well. Yes, they got a point at Arsenal, but it's a point away from home. You know, yes, I know I mentioned this before, that sticking point of losing at home to Forest is still a bit of, you know, shows that there are some sort of chinks in the armor, so to speak. But you can't knock it. I mean, they're not just scoring goals, they're keeping clean sheets as well. So it's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, they're looking good all over the pitch. And I know people say it with Slot, it's, you know, he's taken Klopp's team and Klopp deserves credit, etc. But it is absolutely wild to think that Liverpool essentially made no signings. So I guess another debate for another day is do teams need to make as many signings as we've seen? Some will argue, yes, their squad was already in good place, etc. But, I mean, I know they've signed Chiesa, but he's basically not kicked the ball. So they've essentially made no signings.
It depends on what the situation is. Obviously, next season is a big thing for Liverpool with Alexander-Arnold, Van Dijk and Salah coming towards the end of their contract. But they didn't need if everyone says about him, you know, inherited Klopp's team, but like, let's not forget that Klopp team, despite winning a couple of trophies or winning a League Cup, was quite poor. So he's built them back up again, and he's made Gravenberch a player, for example. You know, he's getting the best out of what he's got, which I think were his strengths anyway. So yeah, I mean, like, you can't knock how good he has been. You know, regardless of who he's inherited, he's taken them to new levels, I think.
I think the difference there, Jordan, what you said, do teams need to buy players to counteract that argument? Like, you got to remember they're a team that have been in runnings for the title, winning Champions League, losing a few finals in the Champions League. They were definitely a very good squad. So it's I think it's unfair to look at every other team and go, do you actually need to sign players, or should you just keep your team for another season or not? Because not all were up to that sort of standard.
Yeah, true.
So, but Slot's done a good job. You can't. It's sort of like it doesn't. It's not just fell into place for him, and he's not actually had to do anything. He has to do something. He's making sort of smaller changes to how Klopp wants to play. There are some changes. I don't think there's a great deal, but then you don't need a great deal when you've got a side that is very good. And you got to remember last season under Klopp, you had a bit of the injuries for Liverpool. There to be a bit of a worse team. Seems to have had Alisson, the goalie's been injured, and Trent was out for like 1 or 2 games. So they kept their squad quite fit. Not perfectly fit, but quite fit. Whereas I think they had last season under Klopp, and when Klopp said he's going to leave, the motivation does go out of some players because you're not playing like you might be trying to play for that manager, but it doesn't impact you for the next season. You're not playing for your contract because it's the next manager that you want to impress rather than what Klopp is. He's doing a very good job at the moment. You can't fault him at all. Remember, he's also top of the Champions League table. I think they've won 5. Like, at all.
Yeah, I mean, Liverpool fans are in dreamland right now, and I'd say enjoy it while it lasts, but you could not put much of a foot wrong. And I think before we get on to the potential title rivals and who could potentially challenge Liverpool, let's talk about Liverpool and their longer term credentials, because, as we said, felt like a bit of a transitional period with some of the new midfielders coming in. So far, we've not really seen them put a foot wrong. But Reece, as you said, there has been, although they've been seemingly unstoppable, I do think there is still weaknesses there. And I guess the question we've got to look at first is, do we see this current form genuinely continuing for 38 games? Because although they've been good, at some point something has to go wrong. They've got to get caught out at some point. It's the Prem at the end of the day. Do we see that happening now, or do we see it happening at the end of the season, or are they literally just going to do this for the whole season?
Well, I mean, it's a difficult one. I think the Christmas period or December alone is really the real big test for them. Liverpool are benefiting from the fact that City are off it. Okay, I know Arsenal had an 8-point gap a couple of years ago, but at this time of year is a huge point banker for them. For when City eventually do turn the tide. Their next upcoming games are Newcastle away, Everton away. That's a huge test, both of them games, to see where they are. And then they've got, after that, a couple of other away games in there as well. Spurs away, West Ham away, is never always easy. So they've got a big challenge there. And if they get through that, even if not maximum points, maybe dropping 3 points, then it's going to be very hard to see them getting caught. But from what I saw from Slot in his first year at Feyenoord, obviously he didn't have better players, but he did lose silly games. And even throughout Feyenoord, I found that he lost games I thought he could compete better in. But maybe I'm overthinking it because he does have better players at disposal at Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's make the case for Liverpool. I mean, we sat here several weeks ago and we said, look, great start for Liverpool, but now's the real test, right? And I mean, since then, they've beat Chelsea, they've beat Leipzig, they've drawn to Arsenal, done Brighton twice, they've beat Leverkusen, Villa, Madrid, and City. So, I mean, they've definitely passed the eye test. They're pretty much passing every test at the moment with flying colours. So, I guess there is an argument to say they'll keep running. They'll keep running like this. Jamie,
Yeah.
what do you think? Do you think there's any stumbling blocks in the next kind of, let's say Christmas?
Well, the next 2 games are important for them because they're away from home. Sort of, they've played City and Madrid in this week, but they've both been at home. And Liverpool, when they have these home games against big opposition, they get up for it massively. And Anfield sort of, is loud, and it sort of, it's like this is our home fortress kind of scenario. So the away days will make it hard. It doesn't mean they can't go and beat both Newcastle and Everton. They definitely can. But but these two probably are quite important ones just because they're away from home a little bit. I think December is a trickier month because there's a game every 3 days, but it's also when you're in that momentum, a game every 3 days is almost perfect. You're getting in momentum, that momentum win, and you feel in great mood. You're feeling a great mood, and then your next game's straight away. It can be like that. So that's where I think December might be a problem for them, but it's not going to be a massive problem. I don't see them falling apart like City are at the moment, where it's sort of four defeats in a row in the league. So if they're topped by Christmas, I think they are the only team though that have been topped by Christmas and not won the league, unless Arsenal did it in the past sort of 2 years. I can't remember who was top at Christmas at that point, but it's sort of like they should be looking at not dropping tons. They might drop a few, but it's not going to be a big deal because they've already got points in the bank, kind of thing. So it's possible, but it's also probable they can go and win them all over Christmas, and in January they've not lost a game in December and November kind of scenarios.
Yeah, and before we move on to potential title rivals, the sort of Salah question mark, some of his comments again pre-City game were a bit strange, I'd say. Not something you want him coming out and saying he's further out than in, and a bit of negativity. Then you've got the rumours of Trent to Madrid, which don't seem to be going anywhere. And then you've got Van Dijk as well. So the final question, I guess, for Liverpool is, do we believe that and the contract questions, the kind of, the doubts ultimately over those three players, could they potentially derail the season later in the line? Like we saw a little bit with the Klopp announcement where it rattled them a bit.
I think you've got three very good professionals in that side. Obviously, the issue is they can speak to foreign clubs in January. I find it very unlikely that Alexander-Arnold is going to stay. So therefore, I find it unlikely that news is going to be kept quiet that he's going to join Real Madrid. Let's be honest, that looks like where he's going to go realistically. So that could have an impact. I think Liverpool fans are probably resigned to Salah potentially going. He's and Van Dijk, I think, again, 50-50. I don't think it should, but it depends on the nature of them, distractions and all this idea of giving them a final send-off, etc. It doesn't always work out, does it?
I kind of don't think it's going to derail this season at all, even if all three of them went, I'm leaving in the summer. The Salah one is, I think he's making them comments in terms to get a contract or to alert other teams that, hey, I've not been offered one yet. You can come in for me, and that works in his own favour for contracts, because either another club's going to come in and offer him a big contract, or Liverpool have then got to go, there's other clubs who are probably sniffing around. We've got to offer him a bigger contract. It's things like that. I think if Salah wants to stay, he'll stay. It's one of them. But I think for the actual season, for this Liverpool team, I don't think it will impact them even if all three leave, because it's another chance for them to go and win a trophy, to win the title like the Premier League, because they have won one and they've been so close on sort of 3 or 4 occasions. So to get another one, it will mean a lot to them. So I don't think even if they are planning to leave, it won't impact them performance-wise anyway.
Yeah, and it could be helping him if anything. We've seen a few players in the Prem over the last decade, turn up when their contracts are due and they're literally played for a contract. So maybe we'll all be hoping he signs a contract and then his form dips off. But let's move on to talk to potential title rivals. So for those who do believe there is still a title race, we'll go in table order, or in this case, literal alphabetical order. Arsenal second place on alphabetical order, which is something we've not seen for a while, apart from the start of the season when Arsenal fans claim they're top. Reece, we know your thoughts on Arteta's inability to win a trophy or win the league. However, we are comparing this not to Man City, but we're comparing them to Arne Slot, who has come in and had months in the job no previous experience winning the Prem, no previous bottle winning the Prem, on a team, with a team who has failed to win the Premier League, close. So why can't Arteta do the same thing?
Because they're not good enough.
But Liverpool have come close. Liverpool have pushed City. So why are Arsenal not the same? That's what I want to understand.
Don't have the mentality. Routinely go away to these teams where they should get at least a point and put in a piss poor performance and lose 1-0. And that's what's going to hold them back. Not the draws. I'm not bothered about the draws because a draw at the Etihad they would have taken anyway this season. They're just not good enough. And it's the same thing every single year. So they don't have that mentality to do it. The benefit Slot has as well is he's got a lot of players that have won the Premier League. Well, quite a lot of that squad still remain. Alisson, Alexander-Arnold, Van Dijk, Salah, Robertson. There's a good core of players there that have been there and done it. So he gets that benefit of the lift. But Arsenal's perspective, they're just not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'd argue Arsenal fans should still be pretty happy. 9 points out of the title race isn't ideal, but I think if you ask most Arsenal fans, they'll go, City's our problem, not Liverpool, and they'll kind of think, to your point, Liverpool, new manager, will drop off. Jamie, what's your thoughts on Arsenal and their ability to push for the title?
I disagree with your point. I don't know if you meant at the start of the season that City is more of the problem than Liverpool. Because now you have to disagree because of the points in the bag for Liverpool. You can't say we're not worried about Liverpool. I think that would be stupid to really go down that route because they're first and 9 points clear of Arsenal. But Arsenal got is they've went to City. They went away to Chelsea. Okay, they had Liverpool at home. They went away to Villa as well. It's all big away games that they've had. They've had quite a lot of them. So it's more, they've got to play all these teams at home, which is better for them. So they've got that sort of opportunity where Liverpool have had City at home. Was it Chelsea at home as well?
Yeah.
I think they've had a few home ones. I think Arsenal got more home games to make that as their advantage. It is possible because they've shown they can get enough points. Like, that's the thing. They've shown they can get enough points. It does come down a bit to their sort of strike force, I think. Okay, they have actually scored the same amount of goals as Liverpool, so they are scoring, but it's kind of, we always suspect that they might lack a goal in certain games because they didn't go and sign that striker. If they went and signed not saying him, but Erling Haaland, if it had a prolific goal scorer, you'd be like, well, where's the proper weakness for Arsenal? Because they seem to be good at the back, not been as great this year, but they've got a good defence and a good attack. So it's kind of in that aspect. So there is still a chance. I think it's too early to say there's no chance for Arsenal, despite what Reece thinks about them. But it doesn't mean it is.
There's no chance.
There is still a chance.
You know full well, right? They could go to Anfield, whenever it is, and get a point. Okay, which is not till May, by the way, which is flipping hell. That could be a showdown. They could full well go and get a point at Liverpool, but you know exactly that they're going to go away to Ipswich Town in April and lose, or Southampton away on the last game and lose, or Forest away in February and lose, or Leicester away and lose. That's their problem. They need to win those games. Don't worry about Anfield.
It's going to be relegation battle. Reece's predictions here for Arsenal.
Yeah, but that's what
they're losing all them games.
That's what they're capable of doing. That's their problem. Don't worry about getting a point at Anfield. Bugger that. Get 3 points at the City Ground, the King Power. That's where they need to be getting their points. That's where they consistently balls it up. At home to Villa last season was a prime example. Away to Fulham last season was a prime example. Season before that.
In the run-in, the only game that Arsenal actually dropped points in the actual run-in to the last, I think it was like the last 10-ish games, was the Villa game. And so I think that was quite harsh. But that's one game. You can't win every single game. You just can't win every single game. And Villa were a good side last year. They were better than what they are this year.
They can't do it when it matters. And yes, I would argue the Fulham game at home is probably what killed it, because they went down to 10 men and we somehow didn't get a win. And obviously we lose the league by 2 points. So you look at that, that's probably the main reason. But that Villa team was struggling, and we put in another piss poor performance. We can't even play poorly and nick a point. We play poorly and we're crap. And I don't understand what that is. I just don't understand what it is. That Newcastle game was testament to that. They were rubbish for ages and they just turn us over comfortably. Like, it's poor. They're not gonna win this league. And if he goes out of the League Cup, because he ain't gonna win the FA Cup, is he? It's just a waste of time. Like, there's a reason why people are saying if Slot wins the league, questions have to be asked of Arteta. Yes, maybe, I don't know, but it's pathetic. It's not going to happen. Chelsea have got more of a chance right now. They're much more consistent and solid.
Well, there's a statement for the headline of the episode. I mean, let's move on to Chelsea then. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with you on that point, that you've got more of a chance than us, but you know, no one in their right mind would have even remotely put us in the title race at the start of the season. Pundits, fans, social media were absolutely mocking us. And suddenly we're seeing a lot of those doubters pipe down. Carragher doing U-turns. We're seeing fans, pundits actually starting to worry about Chelsea again. So I'm very impressed with what I'm seeing. Do I really think we're going to go and get 90 plus points and win the league? Probably not. But, you know, you look at the numbers, and the thing is, Liverpool are the ones who are top. You've got to remember this, right? We all sat there pre-season and said Liverpool are going to struggle this year because of Slot, new manager, transitional midfield. So the more City are sliding down the table, weirdly, I'm going, well, if Liverpool do drop a few games, maybe Arsenal, Chelsea, we'll get onto Brighton very briefly, but I do think there is teams who could slip into this title race where just all the big teams have a bad season. A bit like the Leicester season. It does feel a little bit like that to me. So I don't know.
I find that hard to believe that a team that has spent the amount of money you have could be considered a Leicester season, Jordan.
I'm not necessarily saying we're Leicester, but what I mean is, it feels a bit weird.
Yes.
Liverpool up there flying unexpectedly. City having the worst time they've had for decades. Like, it feels a little bit weird. I don't know.
No, that's a fair point. I think the only issue Chelsea do have, though, is you lost the first game at home to City and you drew at home to Arsenal. That's nothing to be cheesed off about. But when it's come to those big games, they've only picked up 1 point so far. I suppose Liverpool as well was a good solid point. But it's just maybe they're the moments where they probably do need to get a win at least one of those games to really show their mettle.
Yeah, I think that is the criticism from my side so far of Maresca. Can we go to those big games? You're right. Can we go to those big games and start winning? I think to be optimistic for us, you know, the City game was first game of the season. We didn't look out of our depth. And in hindsight, you could argue that's points drop based on how City have been since. The Arsenal game was pretty 50-50. The Liverpool game probably gave them, I'd say, the closest game they've had all season, barring the losses. And then United was just poor all round. But I think if we can turn a few of these big games into wins, I do think there's an argument that we could put at least a bit of pressure on. Jamie, what do you think of Chelsea? Can they go anywhere close?
Well, one of the also positives for you is you're playing in the Conference League, and you rotate your squad by all the 11 players nearly. So that helps. And you're like playing one game a week, kind of scenario. It's not exactly one game a week, obviously, with the midweek ones, but it's like that. So that helps you. You've shown that you've got some form, and it's going quite well at the moment. However, I think you won't have the right consistency for 2 more thirds of the year to keep up to get to 86 plus points. I don't think you need 90 to win the league this year. So I was looking at around the 85 kind of mark. I don't think Chelsea will have the consistency over the next 2/3 just yet. Because I think you've got a silly mistake in you defensively. If you look at the Villa game when we were watching it, Fofana getting caught on his arse just from a little tap round by Watkins, and Watkins just was crap, basically. It's things like that I think will, and I don't see that stopping. I think that will happen a lot of the times this season, and you'll get punished at some point. So that's possibly the negative, but at the moment, you can't really argue because you're joint second in the league, third by alphabetical, which I knew you were going to jump in at any point you could have. But maybe I think you getting top four was your goal at the start of the season, really. So I think it's a good season for you. Just I don't think you'll be near Liverpool if they're the ones who are going to, whoever wins the league. I don't think you'll be that close to them. I think you might be possibly even 9 points off from now, which I don't think is too bad.
No,
that gets you third, fourth. Who cares, kind of thing. So I think it's fine for Chelsea not to win the league, but yeah, I just think the slight consistency. I think the defence looks still a bit shaky, and that will cost you. Trust me, I'm watching it at the moment at City. The shakiness does cost you at some point, and you've got 2/3 of the season left. So I think that's your issue at the moment.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Let's talk Brighton very briefly. Brighton fans, if you're watching, do you think you can push for the title? Most will say no. 11 points is the gap at the minute. Yeah, I'll be short and sweet on this. I just don't think Brighton have got it. They've done well, and I actually think the manager deserves serious credit. But I watched them against us, and they were one of the worst defensive sides I've ever seen. We could have generally scored 12 goals. So there's no way a team who defends like that can win the league. Do you guys have any positives you've seen that maybe they could get up there if it's a Leicester season?
Brighton could be the surprise for fourth. Let's be honest, that's the only thing worth watching in this league now is who gets fourth place. It seems to be different every year. Obviously, it means if they get fourth this year, they're going to be terrible next year. This comes with the territory. No chance of the league. Look, let's be realistic. Modern Premier League football does not allow for this. So no chance of Brighton winning the league. But nothing wrong with saying they could get fourth. You know, they're getting good results at all sorts of games. You know, they got a draw at the Emirates, a well-deserved draw at the Emirates. Let's make that clear. You know, they're beating teams who you'd think, oh, maybe this is where they're going to come unstuck. Can't knock it. So fair play to them. And this point, Brighton fans would be buzzing because they were concerned when De Zerbi left where they were gonna go.
Yeah, just quickly on Brighton. Look, they're not going to win the league, especially as there's a 11-point gap on them to Liverpool. I don't see them closing 11 points on Liverpool, so that just kind of ends it for me. Look, they beat City. They can beat you. They can give you a tough game, but they can also have howlers. You know, they're drawing 1-1 to Southampton. They got, like Jordan said, when they played Chelsea, they got battered defending like that. So no, they can't win it. No, I don't think we need to touch much more on that. Might be being harsh, but we're talking about the title. They can, if they get Europa places, they'll be happy. Really, let's be honest, and they should be.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And I guess just quickly before we do wrap up, are we changing our Premier League title predictions? I think that's the final question. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, me and Jamie said Man City and Reece said Liverpool. Is that right? Or was that last season?
I did say Man City, but I did put Liverpool second.
Okay. So I guess are any of us willing to admit we were wrong? Because I've got to admit, what I'm seeing out of City, it's just unprecedented. And unless they change tactically, it sounds ridiculous to say, but I actually can't see them closing the gap unless Liverpool have an absolute calamity. So I'm going to actually change my prediction and say Liverpool. I think they've just been too slick, and Slot deserves a lot of credit. Are you boys willing to change, or are you going to stick with City?
Look, I did say at the start when we did the Premier League, like the finishing places, it was it was sort of like I had a feeling that City wouldn't win it, but I was just like, I can't go against my team. And I'm still going to just keep with my team. That's just pure bias. If I was betting on it and my life depending on it kind of thing, I wouldn't go City at this point. So that sort of says what my actual answer is, but I'm still sticking with City just through pure bias.
At the start of the season, I said Slot would thrive under this underdog tag. I know we can't class Liverpool as an underdog, but that under the radar team, not getting much attention, thriving. I think when the spotlight was on him at Feyenoord last year, he didn't deliver the league, which will be a sticking point. They won the cup, but so maybe if the spotlight grows on him, can he cope with that pressure? The players can, but a couple of injuries, maybe not. But they are blitzing the league anyway. I'm going to stick with Man City, just to stick with them, be stubborn. I'm not going to change my mind. I didn't last season when I said Liverpool would win it, so I might as well be wrong again this year.
All right. Well, there you have it. That wraps it up for another episode. If you have made it this far, hit us up in the comments. Who do you think is going to win the Premier League? Do you agree or disagree with us? But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.